Hello guys. Well, it seems like we're on a bit of a roll lately. No video for months and now two within the space of a week. So this time all we're planning to do is replace the two main engine mounts on the car because the old ones, the rubber is very hard now. Guessing it's never been replaced in all the years this car's been on the road. And as any classic car person will tell you, it's the rubber parts which always need replacing first. They perish, they split, they go hard, and they just stop performing the function properly. So let's pop the bonnet and take a little look and see what we're going to do. Okay, there's a good view of one of the engine mounts. So we have a metal tower section here which is bolted down with I think 4 bolts onto the base plate here. And then we have one main bolt going through, or actually 2 on this side, going through to hold the engine in place, and exactly the same situation on the other side. We have a piece of rubber here which is supposed to soak up the worst of the vibrations, but as you can imagine over the years that has gone rock hard now. So it's really due for replacement. So what we're going to do, we're going to get a jack underneath the engine with a block of wood to support the sump, and then we're going to just take the weight of the engine, then unbolt the top mounts on each side and then loosen the bottom bolts here, just so we've got some sideways movement in the tower. Right, we're going to start with the magic penetrating oil, otherwise known as WD-40. If you can see the bolts down here, let's give them a good dousing. Let's see, where's the others? It's a bit hard to get the camera in here to show you what I'm doing, but and also the top bolts as well. This one's awkward because it's behind the radiator hose. I think this one should be a little bit easier to access. So there we are. Oops, nearly out of this stuff now, I'm trying to do everything one-handed. And these two. Right, hopefully that will have done the job, so we'll leave that for a few minutes while we set the jack up underneath the engine. Okay, so if you can see what I've done there, I've basically supported the weight of the engine using a jack, and I can just finally adjust that as I need to, as I slacken off the mounting bolts, just to ease the pressure off and make life a little bit easier for myself. So let's get back up top and start slackening off these bolts. Okay, now let's make a start unbolting these. So we've got our 1/4 inch Whitworth spanner for the top bolts, top nuts should I say. There we go. Spoiler alert, I did actually pre-loosen these because they were quite tight. So let's take off these 2 nuts on each side, and then we'll come back and take a look about loosening the bottom ones. Well, as you may be able to see there, I've removed both bolts from this side of the engine, from the left side as you're viewing it from the front, and they came out reasonably easily if we can make this focus. But as is typical, on this side one came out, but the other is really tough, and it's not helped by the fact it's obscured by the timing chain cover, and that's making it really difficult to remove. So what I'm going to do, I'm removing this radiator hose here to give me a bit better access. So you see down there I've attached a hose to drain off the coolant, which is draining into this bucket slowly here, and once that's off, hopefully we can just get this last nut off. I'd like to be able to do it without having to saw the thing off, because then I'll have to find a replacement, but needs must, so let's see how we go. There we go, now we can get a much better view of the problem now this hose is out of the way. So as you can see, I've managed to loosen the bottom nut down there, but the top one here is absolutely solid. Now this is the timing chain cover here. As you see, it has a lip all the way around where it's bolted down to this front plate with a gasket, and that is stopping me from getting a ring spanner on this top nut. Open-ended spanners, just really the slipping and the starting to chew this thing up, so I'm trying to just keep squirting it with penetrating oil. I think I might actually get a bit of heat onto it to see if I can loosen it, but if all else fails, then I'm afraid it's going to have to be a hacksaw job. Well guys, it looks like I did jinx the job, because it's turned out to be much more difficult than I was expecting. So as you can see, it's now dark outside, so we're several hours later. It's fought us every step of the way, this job. The radiator has been drained. Let me just focus. Let's see, so this hose is now out of the way, giving much better access. I've had to get the angle grinder and cut this top bolt off. The underside bolt has been removed, and all 4 bolts have been loosened at the bottom of this engine mount tower here. Now on this side, let's see if we can get a good view here. Both top bolts have been removed. They came off okay. The bottom one is absolutely solid and starting to get chewed up. So I've decided just to take this tower out completely. So I've unbolted 3 of these mounts. There's still one difficult one down there, which I think I'm going to have to tackle tomorrow now, because I need a break for today. So that's where we stand now. Hopefully tomorrow we can get that side out, and let me see if we can focus here. That's better. And just jack the engine up slightly and try and replace these rubbers. I've lost one bolt because I had to destroy it with the angle grinder, but I'm sure I'll be able to find something suitable in my parts bag. But you will see it's in the future in this video, but for now I'm going to sign off and see you tomorrow. Okay guys, well, thanks to the power of time travel, or just a bit of video editing, it is now the next day. So I did another few minutes work before I packed up last night. I managed to get both suspension towers out, so if I can try and focus this a little bit better. So you can see this is where the old tower sat here, where the 4 mounting holes are, and the same on the other side. I just need to clean up some of the corrosion here. I'm going to paint some cure rust on there just to convert any bits of rust, because I won't be able to access that easily once the mounts are back in. But let me show you what I've done. There we go, these are the two mounting towers here. So they came off reasonably easily actually, and there's the old hard rubber mounts which we're going to replace. So you've got a big nut on the bottom and a locating peg there, so if you can see how that goes in like that, and then bolts through underneath. So we'll do those with the new rubbers before we refit these mounts, make it a little bit easier to do. And then these two go into the legs on the underside of the engine and then bolt through solidly. And as you can see, this is the one off the other side that won't focus. Let me just try and focus that. You can see where I've had to grind that one off, so that obviously destroyed the nut, so I need to find another nut suitable to fit this kind of thread. So let's have a little dig around and see what we can find once we've treated that rust. Okay, I'm going to attempt to do this one-handed while I hold the camera. This could end badly, but let's see if we can manage it. So this is Cure Rust I'm using here, which just converts the worst of the corrosion, just to give the metal parts a little bit more protection before I cover them up again. It doesn't have to be perfectly neat, considering where it is. Just as long as it doesn't get any worse, then I'll be happy with that. I think that's probably good enough for that side. Just make sure we get into all the little nooks and crannies. Helps if I point the camera in the right direction. I think that'll do for that side. Let's take a look at this side. Alright, what have we got here? That's actually not too bad at all. I don't think we need anything on that side. So, okay, onto the new mounts then. Okay, good news. Rummaging through my spare parts bag, I managed to find a suitable nut and spring washer to fit onto these. So that will replace the one I had to grind away. So let's keep those safe for when we need it. And now let's take a look at the new rubber mounts. There's one. There's the other one. So let's compare them to the old ones. They certainly look a lot better, and the rubber feels softer. Let's just check these nuts still fit the new ones. Should do. Yeah, that seems to be okay. A little bit tight, but I'm sure they'll be fine. And I've been soaking these in white spirit as well, just to try and degrease them and get all the old crud out of the threads. But yeah, that's fine. So I think the first thing we can do then is to bolt these onto the towers, and then we can start to get them fitted into place. Okay, hope you can see this okay. So that's our bolt hole there, and we've got a little peg here which keys into this hole and allows a bit of sideways movement for fine adjustment. So we need to bolt that through here. So we're going to put a spring washer on, and what I'm going to do is just use a little bit of copper grease here, just so we don't have any problems with it seizing up in the future. Not a huge amount, just a little bit. And then we'll see if we can get this on. There we go, that bolts down nicely. that was a nightmare to take off yesterday, so try and avoid that problem in future in case we need to do it again. So I'm not going to really tighten it down a lot, just enough to stop it moving too much while we get it into position, and then we can give it a final tighten once everything's adjusted. So we've still got a slight bit of movement there for when we get everything back together, and once everything's nicely in position we can just tighten all the bolts up properly. And right, let's do the other one now. So same again. So spring washer first, a little bit of copper grease, just there, and then that should smear around the threads as we tighten it down. There we go. And again, just make sure that's the right way. Just give it a little tighten down, but not too much, just so we can still move it by hand if we need to. There we go. So I believe those two are now ready to go back on. Let's go over to the car and do the next stage. Okay, this is going to be quite difficult to show, I think, on camera, but all we need to do is to try and position this in such a way as to get the bolt holes through into the engine bracket, which we have. Check everything lines up nicely. Now what I'm going to do is just loosely put the nuts onto this side, and I'm going to do the same on the other side while everything's still nice and loose here, and then I'm going to get all 4 nuts and bolts on both sides at the bottom of each tower, and then we can sort of experiment with getting the position correct before I can take the pressure off the weight off the engine and tighten all the bolts up properly. Okay, well, after much messing about, we've got both support towers here bolted down, 4 bolts on each side, nice and tightly. I still haven't quite tightened the top 2 and the one underneath here on both sides until I lower the engine down. So to remove the jack, the full weight of the engine will then be on these supports, and I'll give it a good move around to make sure it's seated nicely, and then I'm going to tighten down the 3 mounts on each side then, and that'll hopefully hold everything nice and tight. Now, unfortunately, this is a perfect example of modern parts not being manufactured as well as the old ones. The 2 top bolts on this mount on this side here, the threads have not been machined very accurately, so the nuts will only go on a certain way and then no further, and no matter how much I tighten it, it's not going to go. If I force it anymore, it'll just shear the bolts off. So what I'm going to do, or what I have done, is I've used some copper washers to space out the bolts slightly, so at least I can tighten it down properly onto this bracket. It's a compromise, but unfortunately it's going to have to do in this case. The other side seem to be fine, so they tighten down no problem at all. So the next job, like I say, is to remove that jack and then tighten these top bolts. Then I'll remove these bits of paper which are soaking up coolant water, reattach this radiator hose here, and also reattach this heater hose, which actually needs to go through the hole in the suspension tower, sorry, in the mount tower here, and into the connection here on the bottom of the radiator. So let's get to it. Okay, the jack's been removed. We've reattached the radiator hose and the heater hose. So now what I'm doing is just replacing all the coolant, which I saved in this bucket, because I don't waste a thing. And once we've refilled the system, what I'm going to do is remove the top heater hose over there, then blow into the radiator to create some pressure in the system. And if I put the top radiator hose into a container like this, it will force coolant up through the bottom hose, through the heater matrix and back out, and that way we can refill the heater matrix. Otherwise it's prone to developing an airlock up there. So even when the engine's up to a nice temperature, you turn the heater on and get cold air through. So that's always something I need to do after I've drained this system. And that should be the last job, hopefully. Okay, all the coolant's back in now, so the last thing we need to do is just remove this top hose. From the heater. Slacken off the thing. Oops. Of course we need to block that up at the same time. Right. Try not to get coolant everywhere. So to keep my finger on that, swap hands, there we go. Okay, that should have filled the heater matrix now. So I need an extra hand really. Okay, here goes, we'll have to be quick. You made a right mess doing that. And then this can go back into the radiator. Well, right, finally I think I need to mop up all this water I've spilt everywhere as soon as I reattach this band. Yeah, with hindsight I should have closed this tap off first, and that would have stopped the water pouring out of the engine block. But we live and learn. Right. Well, it just goes to show that it's always the jobs you think are going to be easy that turn out to be the most difficult ones. But we're all bolted up. Seems to be nice and solid again, so time will tell, see if it's made any kind of improvement. All the radiator hoses are reconnected, systems refilled, and the heater matrix has been flushed. So that'll do for now. Just like to say that it won't only be tinkering videos in the garage I'll be doing. I will be doing some driving videos in the near future. So until then, I'll see you in the next video.